The Upper Moons from Demon Slayer are some of the most powerful forces and interesting characters in the entire franchise, being the most elite of Muzan's forces. So what would happen if Doma, the Upper Moon 2, and the third most powerful demon on the planet, became a Demon Slayer instead of joining Muzan's forces? Now, we know that this demon is actually centuries old, but for the sake of our story, let's bring his birth a bit further forward in our timeline so that Doma is a parallel of the current Hashira. Now, even in this timeline, Doma is born with his rainbow-colored eyes and white hair, which lead to his parents making him the figurehead of the Paradise Faith cult. But his position as a religious figurehead only distresses Doma, as he does not believe in Buddha, gods, or paradise. And keep that in mind, because this part of his personality is going to be important later when he becomes a Demon Slayer. But the most important aspect of Doma's psyche is his emotionless state. Even when his mother committed a brutal murder-suicide, leaving him an orphan, Doma could only think of how disgusting the bloody mess was. Without parents, Doma is forced to carry on being the head of the Paradise Faith in order to survive. While he pities his followers, there's no remorse in his soul. He regards them like a human would look down on an ant. But Doma's entire worldview about the supernatural world is about to change. As his cult rises in popularity, he encounters tales of people plagued by supernatural beings that hunt at night and are many times stronger than a normal human. The challenge of taking down demons awakens a spark in Doma's soul, and through the Paradise Faith, he manages to reach out to the water hashira, Urokudaki Sakonji. Training under Urokudaki, Doma learns water breathing, but based on his cold heart and the cryokinetic abilities he had as a demon, Doma would probably develop his own breathing style called ice breathing. Due to his incredibly high intelligence, Doma becomes a sword-fighting prodigy and passes the final selection with ease. After a few years in the Demon Slayer Corps, he manages to kill one of the lower moons, and takes his place at the top as the Ice Hashira. But while they're undeniably on the same side, Doma does not get along well with the most powerful warrior of them all, the Stone Hashira Gyomei. There are a few reasons for this, but the most obvious one is Doma's atheism directly clashes with Gyomei's spirituality as a Buddhist monk. The Ice Hashira's irreverence and cool attitude remain among the few things that can set Gyomei on edge. Another thing that annoys the Stone Hashira is the continuation of the Paradise Faith. But this time, Doma legitimately does try to help people instead of devouring them, and uses the cult to distribute wisteria incense and protect people from demonic forces. Now let's put a pause on Doma's story before Tanjiro enters the picture, and take a look at how events in the main Demon Slayer timeline would change if Doma was not a demon. Now the first major change is that Doma does not join the Upper Moons, meaning that the rank of Upper Moon 2 will eventually go to Akaza, as he beats everyone aside from Kokushibo. But that's not the only Upper Moon who gets affected by the change in our timeline. Think back to how Gyutaro and Daki were turned into demons. Doma was walking through the entertainment district searching for young women to devour when he found the dying siblings. At the time, Doma was the Upper Moon 6, and gave his blood to Gyutaro and Daki, challenging them to grow strong enough to rival the 12 Kizuki. But in our new timeline, the entertainment district leaves the two siblings to die, and their bodies are eventually cleared out the next morning. So who will take up the vacant positions among the Upper Moons? I think it's pretty likely that Nakime will be appointed as the Upper Moon 5, with Gyoko and Hantengu taking ranks 3 and 4. Now, while it would be nice for Enmu to take the number 6 spot among the Upper Moons, it's more likely that this seat stays vacant until Kokushibo turns Kaikaku into a demon. Now that we've looked at the demons, let's see how the Demon Slayer ranks will change when we remove Doma from the main timeline. In the original story, the flower Hashira Kanae Kocho battles Doma until sunrise and eventually dies of her injuries. That means that in this timeline, Kanae survives and remains as one of the Demon Slayer's greatest assets. While Shinobu was already the insect Hashira at the time, Kanae's death pushed her to go beyond her limits and become more powerful. So Shinobu might actually end up being a little bit weaker in our timeline. We now know from Shinobu's description during the rehabilitation arc that Kanae was very forgiving of demons and believed they could be saved, meaning that she would likely support Tanjiro and Nezuko in their journey as well. But there's one character that might actually disappear from the Demon Slayer story if Doma becomes a Demon Slayer, and that character is the beast-breathing specialist Inosuke Hashibara. You see, Inosuke's mother was a member of the Paradise Faith, and she was eaten by Doma. But since the Paradise Faith is an actual charity this time around, Inosuke's mom survives and actually lives a decent life, meaning that he won't be abandoned as a child. If Inosuke grows up in a loving home, there's absolutely no reason for him to go into the forest and grow up among wild boars, meaning that he won't even learn beast breathing in the first place. So let's balance everything out now. In the Taisho era, we have no Inosuke and a weaker Shinobu, but the Hashira ranks are bolstered by the flower Hashira Kanae and the ice Hashira Doma. So how did the main events of the Demon Slayer timeline change? Well, things might get difficult for Tanjiro without Inosuke by his side, but he will probably be replaced by Genya, who has also passed the final selection alongside Tanjiro and Zenitsu. Now, the initial arcs of the story from Mount Naragumo and the Entertainment District will likely be the same, since Genya is a pretty solid replacement for Inosuke. There's also no real reason for Doma to get involved in these incidents. The same is true for the Swordsmith Village, because it's hard to imagine a reason for Doma to be there unless he was getting a new sword. And anyway, the Demon Slayers managed to fend off the 2 upper moons with no casualties. The first significant change comes during the Hashira training arc. With Kanae alive, there are now 9 active Hashira even after Kyojiro's death and Tengen's retirement. So when Tanjiro and the others turn up to train, Doma focuses on temperature resistance and psychological fortitude, forcing the young Demon Slayers to perform sword drills in freezing conditions while managing their breathing techniques. His training is brutal without being cruel, and his apathetic nature enables him to gauge when students are reaching their physical limits without being emotionally affected by their pain. During this arc, Doma becomes particularly intrigued by the Kamado siblings' relationship, and Tanjiro's ability to show empathy toward demons. This challenges Doma's worldview that demons are simply threats to be eliminated, sparking the first genuine emotion Doma has felt in years: curiosity. The Infinity Castle arc begins with Nakime's blood demon art transporting the Hashira into the ever-shifting fortress. Due to the altered power structure, the battles are redistributed differently. Akaza, now Upper Moon 2, has grown significantly stronger over the years, without Doma above him. His martial arts have evolved, and his destructive power has increased exponentially. However, his Akaza principles remain unchanged. He still refuses to fight or eat women, and maintains his warrior's code. When the Hashira are separated within the castle, Doma finds himself face to face with Akaza in a vast chamber that seems to respond to the Ice Hashira's presence. Before their battle begins, Akaza immediately recognizes something familiar about Doma's rainbow eyes and white hair. Muzan had been keeping an eye on the figurehead of the Paradise Faith. As a demon, Doma's calm and emotionless nature would have made him the perfect psychopathic killer. The fight begins with Akaza immediately unleashing his blood demon arts, but Doma's ice breathing immediately counters, seemingly creating a dome of ice that absorbs and redirects the shockwaves. Thrilled by the Demon Slayer's strength, Akaza makes Doma an offer to join the demons, just like the one he made Kyojiro all those months ago. But Doma responds with his characteristic emotionless tone. "I have no interest in becoming a demon. You represent everything I despise, allowing emotion to cloud judgment." This enrages Akaza, as Doma implies that his life's work to become a great martial artist was basically an emotional whim. With the disrespect stinging what's left of his soul, Akaza charges at Doma once again. In the original timeline where they were both demons, Akaza could never hurt Doma. But this time, Doma's humanity makes him falter, and the pain of his injuries becomes too much for even his icy demeanor to hide. But that pain brings clarity to Doma's mind, allowing him to move from being just plain emotionless to accepting the selfless state. All of a sudden, Akaza finds it harder to predict Doma's moves. He can no longer sense the killer intent that telegraphed the Ice Hashira's attacks. As he picks up the pace once again, Doma awakens his Demon Slayer mark and grips his sword tightly, making the Nichirin blade shine a deep red. In this moment of calmness and power, Doma finally understands Akaza. He speaks out loudly, "You're not fighting me, you're fighting your own weakness, your own human memories." The psychological insight hits Akaza hard. His compass needle wavers as suppressed memories of why he wanted to become strong emerge. And in that moment, Doma strikes, beheading Akaza cleanly. But this wasn't a physical victory. Akaza could reattach his head if he really wanted to. However, Doma had already won the psychological battle a while back. As Akaza disintegrates, he remembers Koyuki and smiles, hoping that they'll be reunited in the afterlife. The battle with Akaza marks a turning point for Doma. He understands that strength is about the connections we make and the people we choose to protect. In the final battle against Muzan, Doma throws himself at the Demon King with no thoughts of self-preservation. His relentless attacks prove crucial in slowing down the Demon King's regeneration, buying precious time for the other Hashira to land decisive blows. When the dust settles and Muzan is defeated, Doma is far too heavily injured to survive. In his last moments, he makes amends with Gyomei and asks him to dissolve the Paradise Faith, declaring that people should find their own meaning in life. So what do you think of Doma's career as a Demon Slayer? Is this path more interesting than the original? As always, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.